If you played Marvel's Avengers and, like me, refused to play it all the way through because of the whole games as a service and heaps of microtransactions nonsense, and you wanted to storm the Square Enix HQ and demand your £60 back, then allow me to restore your faith in Square Enix with help from the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is love, death, and video games. Despite the name, you only actually play as one Guardian, the titular Terran Peter Quill, taking command of your fellow Guardians to tell them to use their abilities, be it Rocket's bombs, Gamora to deal huge damage with her sword, Groot to hold his enemies in place with his roots, or Drax to beat the living piss out of varying types of space turds. Quill is restricted to just his blasters and melee attacks, with the blasters lacking in damage dealt. But that's the beauty of it. Quill is nothing without the rest of the Guardians. And if you don't utilize all of their abilities in combat, then it's really difficult to proceed, especially on the more difficult setting. As the story progresses, Quill's blasters get different elemental shots: ice, electricity, fire, wind, and they're effective against different enemy types in world puzzles. And the story missions take a linear path, only deviating from that path to find collectibles, outfits, and crafting materials for upgrades, all of which are available from the get go, which offers you the option to go about upgrading as you wish. And character abilities are upgraded with points gained through fighting, so there isn't an empty feeling at the end of a skirmish, and you end up being able to take a character in different directions combat wise. The quips and the dialogue are so good that the admittedly simple combat doesn't feel boring or samey. Each character has a distinct personality, and that's a huge credit to the voice acting and writing from Square Enix, from Rocket's sharp wit to Drax being completely literal. I think you know the bit I'm on about. The combat isn't like Avengers. It's a blur of explosions, heavy hits, blasters, and a medley of super attacks from the other Guardians, all brought together by the most kick-ass soundtrack in gaming history. If you'd have told me one day that I'd be blowing chunks out of a flying space squid to Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult and The Final Countdown by Europe, I'd have told you where to go. The story, the meat of the game, and it is incredible. Taking a turn from where I thought it was initially going to end with more twists later on in the game, it's a massive comic book brilliance intercut with surprisingly emotional moments from every character, from Rocket's origin story to Gamora's sibling issues. And at one point, I was sitting there actually crying. I'm looking at you, Peter and Nikki. It's a superhero story, but it's a story that has you invested from chapter one. Will they pay their debt? What happened on that Nova Corps ship? What about Nikki? And for the love of fucking God, what's going on with Cammy the Space Llama? Seriously, I need to know what's happening with that Space Llama. All the story threads dangled before you were wrapped up before the conclusion, making for a wholly satisfying end to a fantastically written story. The polar opposite to Marvel's Avengers, Guardians is the linear story approach we wanted. This is what we wanted, Square Enix. They're the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they have business cards. Well, there you have it. Has Guardians of the Galaxy restored your faith in Square Enix? Let me know in the comments and on Twitter at Bandrews_97.